Here comes the, here comes the, here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the, no, here comes the.
Yo, what is going on, YouTube? Man, if you're new here, I'm your host, Calvin Domingo, aka Steezy A. Smith, and we're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. I know I wasn't able to go live earlier in the week. I did promise weekly live streams, and while I wasn't able to fulfill that promise this week, I'm coming at you guys with something a little different than I normally am accustomed to doing things. I had two very important guests. As you guys know, I like to call them VIGs. I haven't had either of them on the show for the longest. And so without further ado, man, we're going to talk about what we feel like is ailing the Seahawks. We're going to kind of go into what needs to change. If there's anything from within that needs to change, we're going to go over the schedule. And if there's time, we're going to preview Seattle and Atlanta. So for my first guest, please, you guys know who he is, the reigning 12th man of the year, the fan of the year for the Seattle Seahawks, one of the voices of the Seattle Seahawks. He is a familiar face. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Norm Cam.
What's up, Steezy?
Man, how we feeling, Norm?
Oh, man, it's kind of tough being a Seahawks fan right now. Got to be honest. Yeah, we are going through some tough times. But, man, there's always hope. That next game, there's always that glimmer of hope they're going to turn things around. We got to do it against Atlanta this week.
Damn right. And like I said, I got one more guest. It's not just Cam and I. He is the co-host of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. He is also a co-host of the Gregg Bell Show with Christopher Kidd from 10 a.m. to noon on 93.3 KJR FM. He has been on the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Christopher Kidd.
What's happening? How's everybody doing?
Man, what's going on, bro? How you doing?
What's up, Chris?
Not much, man. I'll say this much before we get into football. Can you guys believe how amazing this weather has been? It is October 17, and I think over the weekend we had 70-degree weather in Seattle.
Man. I went for a walk earlier today, just around the neighborhood for about an hour, and it's a beautiful fall weather. Right? It's a little cool, but sun's out. I mean, it's perfect.
Man, I know
it has been
a
good.
Football show, but I had to get that in there because I feel like it's going to be a nasty winter. Having sun this much through October, kind of insane, but nonetheless, let's talk some football, baby.
Damn, you just had to put that in the air, huh?
I'm sorry, man.
You just had to put it in the air.
I'm sorry.
Nah, you're good, bro. You're good. Hey, I'm happy.
You know what's ironic about the whole weather thing you're bringing up is the last two games at home, the weather has been like gorgeous. The sunset is awesome. Not barely a cloud in the sky, and yet we had to witness like bloodbaths on the field. That's the irony about how.
You're right.
Sadly.
So before we kick things off, Kid, I just got to ask. I don't know if it's too early, but are we running this weekend?
So I always Steezy's talking about flag football. We play on Saturday. Steezy hit us up, maybe hit me up. I don't even remember how it went, but Steve was like, "Yo, I'm trying to get down on flag," and we invited him, and he came out for a few times and has been for the last few months. But Steezy, I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll hit you up in the morning to see if you're available. And then I will let you know if you are playing for sure because I got to talk to the guys. I text them every Friday morning to see how many heads we're going to have, and we go about it that way. So I'll text you in the morning confirming if you're good or not. And then if all things go to plan, we should be playing on Saturday. But if not, there's always next week.
All right. Well, that's that. Let's dive right in, shall we? Like I told you guys before the show, we don't have to talk about this for too long. I mean, he is just a depth piece, right? But in case you missed it, the Seahawks did kick off the mini trade frenzy this week by trading a 2026 sixth-round pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars for defensive lineman Robertson-Harris. Just a couple of stats and fun facts here. He's a 6'5" veteran defensive lineman in his 8th season in the NFL. He has 106 career games under his belt and has spent time at both end and tackle. And I think the primary reason why he only went for a late round draft selection in the 2026 draft is because Jacksonville switched from a 3-4 defensive front this year to a 4-3 look, rendering Robertson-Harris expendable. One last fun fact here before I just get quick reactions from the both of you guys. He's reuniting with former Chicago Bear and Jacksonville Jaguars teammate Travis Gibson on the Seattle Seahawks. And so, Norb, I'll start with you. Instant reactions, any sort of takeaways. Is he going to be anything more than a depth piece?
I think he'll be more than a depth piece. the way the injury situation has been going on. I thought this was a little concerning. I thought, is this speaking to how serious Byron Murphy's injury is? I'm hoping he'll be back this week, but if he's not, maybe this is to shore up the depth in that area, especially if he can't go in the next game. But I was looking at his numbers, and I think he's better than a depth piece. I mean, he's like you say, he's been in the league for quite a while, but the last 2 seasons from 22 to 23, he played all 17 games, started all 17. 3 sacks in 2022, 3.5 in 23. He's already got 2 in 24. So I like the way the guy's numbers are trending in the right direction. And, from all I'm hearing, it sounds like, he's durable. He gets pressure on the quarterback, quite a few tackles as well. So I don't know, he might fit right in, and again, the way the injuries are going, we might need every piece of depth on both sides of the offensive and defensive line. So I wouldn't be surprised if he contributes sooner rather than later.
Man, say that. And
and they only had to give up a 6th-round pick for him. So it's not like they had to sacrifice that much to get him. So I like the move.
And it's a 6th-round pick in the 2026 draft, not this upcoming draft. And so, that there's not as much value there, right? And so, Chris, I'm going to, pass the torch over to you. I know you're a big film guy. And so Mike McDonald yesterday in his press conference said that Robertson-Harris will line up in the B and C gaps. Do you think that he'll be a factor, or again, is he just a depth piece?
That's a great question. I honestly don't know, because right now you have Leonard Williams. He's playing all over. You had the injury to Byron Murphy, and that obviously made Jonathan Hankins play a lot more than he has been accustomed to throughout his career. He's been playing a lot of snaps, and that dude is a mountain. And having him play a majority of the snaps puts him in a really difficult position, just because the depth that the Seahawks had allowed him, with Byron Murphy, to play 30 snaps and do what he needs to do in the run game, affected. Having him clog up the lanes and allowing for the linebackers to come through the gaps, B gap, A gap, and making plays in the backfield. With Byron Murphy being out, as I mentioned, Jonathan Hankins was tasked to play more snaps, and the depth at the defensive tackle, quote-unquote, nose tackle position, it's not really there. It's Jonathan Hankins and then Cameron Young, and is that enough? Cameron Young, he's kind of light. And then Jay Reed, he plays the other defensive tackle position, as well as Leonard Williams, who bounces all around the defensive line, whether he's playing defensive tackle, where he's playing the edge. So for Roy Harris Robertson, I think this is an opportunity to show that he can play the run first, and then he can get to the quarterback. Because one of the biggest issues right now with the Seahawks for the past 3 straight weeks has been what? Their inability to stop the run. It's been, if you are going up as the Seahawks, it's, hey, can we run the football? Hell, any one of us, Norbcam, myself, Steezy, if we were on the Niners, we could have run effectively because the lanes were open. You had too many times where linebackers were in the wrong gaps, poor communication before the snap. All of those things go into stopping the run. The Seahawks haven't been doing as of lately. So it's great that he can get to the quarterback, but their biggest deficiency right now, stopping that run. So I think he's going to be looked to as an impact player to, as you said, as Mike McDonald mentioned, he's going to be lining up in the B and C gaps, and we're going to need him to get either stuffing his offensive linemen right then and there and creating lanes for the linebackers, and even if your safeties have to get down and dirty and make a play for no gain or a couple of yards, because as of lately, people have been running down all over the Seahawks. So that's kind of what I'm viewing it right now, is he is definitely a piece that they need. I know he's a teammate of Travis Gibson, former teammate, but Travis, he hasn't looked too great out there. He hasn't been setting the edge the way they would want it to be set. And with injuries, more and more guys are getting more opportunities, but they're also not putting forth what Mike McDonald and the defensive staff want to see consistently. So this is going to be a huge test for Roy. Is he going to help with the run defense? And I think he can, but I'm also anxious to see what Byron Murphy looks like. It sounds like he will be playing on Sunday. He did practice, so that's a good sign, but we'll see what happens on Sunday for sure.
No doubt. And just to kind of spend, just a few more seconds on this topic, the theme of this show is how we believe the Seahawks will bounce back and potentially right the ship. And so I think that, with Seattle trading a late round pick in the 2026 draft for a veteran piece, a proven piece. I mean, he's shown some flashes with Chicago. He's shown flashes with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought it was interesting. And I don't know if you guys saw this. I brought it up before the show. But Seattle Sports' Stacey Ross, she kind of likened this acquisition to Carlos Dunlap back in 2020. Now, I don't think that he's anywhere near the level of a Carlos Dunlap, because Carlos Dunlap, prior to being traded in 2020, I mean, he was such a force, for the Bengals. And obviously we saw what he did and the sort of impact that he had in Seattle, just because I think what she was looking at was Carlos Dunlap was also in the midst of like a schematic change on defense, which kind of rendered him useless on that defense. Do you guys think that's a kind of a crazy take on Ross's part, or do you guys kind of see where she's kind of coming from? And Nora, about to start with you.
I don't know if I'd go as far as that, because when that move was made back then, I remember going, what? We got Dunlap from the Bengals? I was like, how the heck did they pull that little magic trick to swindle him onto the Seahawks? And his impact was immediate.
Right.
I had to look up who Roy Robertson-Harris was, because I didn't know his name. So I had to who's this guy? And so it wasn't quite the same panache, quite the same splash signing that Carlos Dunlap was. But again, once I saw the numbers, I was like, okay, this guy's got some, he's got some skills, and he's made some impact, wherever he's gone. And like I said, it feels like he's trending up the right way, getting a lot of these numbers, especially on tackles. It's actually going up in the last few years as opposed to his first few years in Chicago. So maybe he's one of those things where he maybe wasn't a great fit, where he was coming from. Like you said, scheme changes and he wasn't quite as relied on. But we really need someone of his nature and position that he plays to fill in for us. So he might make that kind of impact. We'll see. But I'm hoping he will, because we need someone to make an impact right now.
I mean, yeah, that's a big dude. I mean, 6'5", and like Kid. I mean, we've talked about this nonstop. I mean, we need to stop the run, and so yeah, I think he'll be an important piece. Kid, any last thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, and I just need to clarify. I know we said C and B gaps, and people probably were like, what the hell is a C and B gap? So the C gap would be on the outside of the left tackle, and the B gap would be right between, I want to say, the left tackle and the guard. So in this scenario, he has to set the edge, kind of what you see from Boelt Mafe. And even Leonard Williams, I don't know if you guys remember this specific play, because the Seahawks just got destroyed by the Niners, but Leonard Williams had his way with Trent Williams on a play, and it was really cool to see. He just manhandled him, threw Trent Williams down, all pro that is, threw Trent Williams down, and was able to tackle the running back for no gain. You're going to need that more consistently against Bijan Robinson and Algier in the backfield on Sunday, because that's what teams are going to try to do. That's what they want to do. So I would, if he's able to get to the quarterback, that's cool, but I think the biggest thing is, can he help with the run defense? Because they're going to need him. He's going to play in that gap, which I just explained what it was. He's going to be able to set the edge and, if need be, move tackles out the way and make plays in the backfield, because that's what they need. And that would give Leonard Williams a break. That would give Derek Hall, Boelt Mafe an opportunity to move and be fresh in this defense, because as you mentioned, they're banged up. All right? So all these things encompassing, they're going to need Robertson to step up big and play a really good game on Sunday, especially if they want to minimize Bijan.
Right, and one last thought here. I also think that he'll bring a little bit of veteran leadership to the locker room, right? I don't know if he was a captain this year, but I have seen the captain patch on Roy Robertson-Harris's Jacksonville Jaguars jersey. And I just think that with this team being as young as it is, by kind of bringing in not only a guy that could help stop the run, but a guy that could also kind of help set the tone in the locker room, right? A guy that's a veteran, a guy that's been in the National Football League. He's an 8-year veteran. And so I think that's an underrated aspect that not a lot of people are talking about, because I do think that this team can use some more leadership. There are a lot of household names. There are a lot of, names that have a lot of, pizzazz, but I think at the end of the day, that's a very underrated aspect that not a lot of people are talking about. But like I talked about earlier, there are a lot of issues, right, plaguing this football team. And Kid, I'm going to start with you, because I was tuned in to your guys' last episode of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. Don't forget to follow them on Instagram and show some love on YouTube, Seahawks Man-to-Man. You and Mike, you guys were going over a bunch of different things. You guys talked about DK Metcalf. You guys talked about how maybe Seattle needs to kind of pivot back to what Shane Waldron was doing. It's more 12 personnel, more 13 personnel, maybe less Noah Fant, right? And obviously the offense has been one-dimensional. And so in your eyes, Kid, I'll start with you. What is the biggest issue ailing this football team? And can it be fixed in-house, or does Seattle need to make additional moves?
It's got to be the offensive line. And that was something that Gregg Bell and I talked about going into the season on the radio. If Ryan Grubb's going to have any success with this offense, it starts with the offensive line. And to be fair, I was one that thought the offensive line would be better than it was last year. Boy, am I wrong. That is not the case at all. I dropped the ball on that one. I thought Charles Cross was going to take the next step, and he has for the most part, but he's had times where he just got beat, and you don't want to see that. Laken Tomlinson, not really what you've expected. Connor Williams, I know he's coming off an ACL injury. Yeah, he's been getting his behind whooped a few times too. Who am I missing? Anthony Bradford and Christian Haynes? Well, there's a reason why they're rotating. It's week 7, and that still hasn't been figured out. They don't have a starter. They are rotating guys at the offensive line. That's not good. And then obviously over at right tackle, you have Stone Forsythe, who is your third string, and that's who you have available. So when you look at the totality of everything from the run game to Geno having to drop back 50,000 times a game, it's because of the offensive line. It's not set. Ken Walker, they say run the ball, run the ball. When Ken gets the football, there's guys in his face, and Ken's trying to dodge dudes and show his strength and speed and quickness when he shouldn't have to. You want to see that in the open field, not 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, but that's because the offensive line is struggling. So the biggest issue right now is the offensive line. They can't run the football effectively. They're trying to. And to Mike's point, what Mike talked about was, you guys remember last season and even 2 years ago when Shane Waldron was bringing out 13 personnel, 12 personnel, and that's basically 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends. And they were passing out of it. They were running out of it. Mike's big point, and this is something I noticed on film, was that in 11 personnel is 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, and 1 tight end. When they run the football out of 11 personnel, whether it's in shotgun, well, it is in shotgun. When it's in shotgun, the wide receivers aren't doing the best job of blocking the nickel, blocking the safety. And when I went and watched the film, Mike was 100% right. There were plays where I saw receivers not getting to the nickel. And guess who makes a tackle for a loss? It's the nickel back. They didn't get to the safety. They didn't crack the safety. Guess who gets a tackle for a loss? It's the safety. And then when you look at 12 personnel, and depending on who you put in the game, because Noah Fant, he's a cool blocker, but A.J. Barner, when I've watched film, A.J. been popping heads. They will send him in motion across the line of scrimmage, and he will go and block the edge. He will go and block the linebacker. He will go and get the safety. And he's been pretty effective in that. Farrell Brown, another tight end that can block pretty well. There was a Ken Walker run that it was a halfback draw, and you see Farrell Brown setting the edge, sealing off the edge, I should say, sealing off the edge, allowing Ken to get through for a 7-8 yard gain. Couple of examples of tight ends being useful, and Grubb's going to have to try to figure out, okay, well, how do I go about this? Do I give my tight ends more love, which that means less passes and plays for JSN, but we're able to run the football and we're able to play action out of that? That's something that he's going to have to weigh and try to figure out, because the film doesn't lie. I could have grabbed clips and brought them to you and shown you because I saw it. It was, damn, JSN missing here. Ty Lockett too, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, the tight ends, though. Okay. They're doing their job. They're blocking. So that might be something he has to figure out, but it all starts with what? The offensive line. So if they can figure out their offensive line issues, great. But I'm going to tell you now, it won't be just grabbing someone outside because there aren't that many linemen available. There's not a lineman that's sitting down that's like, oh, you know, we could use him. Jason Peters is the closest thing that they got, and I don't know if he's ready. Let's just be real. The dude's 50 years old. Can he really go out there and compete? Is he really going to be able to stop a guy pass rushing, or is he going to be able to run up the field and run block? I don't know. So it's the Seahawks offensive line is pretty set. Nothing's going to really change. I don't know if you can make a big trade or anything, but I don't see that happening. This is just where they are. They have to play better. What did Mike McDonald say maybe a month ago? We got to move guys. And right now we're not moving guys and talking about the offensive line. Well, it's week 7 and it's still an issue. So unless they can start moving folks, you're going to have issues. But I do think using the tight ends more might be able to help.
No doubt about that. Norb, I have 3 different options here. What do you think of these 3 options you think would help Seattle the most moving forward?
Let's see. So three options here.
Mm-hmm. So
Target
Seattle
DK
less. Mm-hmm. Incorporate more 12 or 13 personnel to alleviate pressure off the offensive line. And I guess this kind of goes hand in hand. So it's more so 2 options here. Less snaps for no offense. And these are all points that Kid and Mike kind of went over on their podcast, which is why I have him on the screen.
Gotcha. I agree with Chris about incorporating more 12 and 13 personnel. I mean, clearly, I can't rehash it. I mean, Chris, you did a beautiful job of breaking down the offensive line. If you were to listen to social media, most of the Seahawks fans out there would say, well, you know what the problem with the team is? Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. Let's bench or trade both of those guys. It seems to be what most people are saying, which I think is freaking crazy because Geno Smith is not the problem on this team. I don't know where they're not watching the right thing if that's what they think is the problem. It is definitely the offensive line. And as you said, Chris, we're not fixing that anytime soon. We're not going to suddenly have new players in there. And unless we can get some of the guys who are on the bench back from injury, I don't know how quick. You didn't mention George Fant. He's our second string right tackle. He was injured in the first game, so I don't know when he's coming back. So it's kind of tough when your right tackle is immediately dropped to the third string right off the bat. And he is playing like a third string guy because if you look at the stats, watch the film, he's horrible. I don't know what they talk about during, offensive line meetings, but do they just go to the room and look at Stone Forsythe and go, I don't know, bro. What you going to do about it this week? Because he sucks. I'm sorry. He sucks. He's got a cool name, but he sucks. He's terrible. And he gets... If he's not getting beat, he's getting pushed into the pocket. I hear some people say, he's not that bad. He only gave up one sack. Yeah, but he gave up 20 pressures, so Geno couldn't do anything with the football, or he got sacked by somebody else. Anyway, that's an old story, but some people don't even realize that story's happening because it's apparently all Geno's fault that he's getting sacked. Okay, but we're not going to change that anytime soon unless we get George Fant back, unless we get Gabe Lucas back, which apparently they think Lucas could be back sometime by midseason. Fingers crossed on that one. But like you said, the only options we have are Jason Peters, almost round up to 50 years old. Yeah, what more? How much better can he have? But you want to hear what's even worse, though? If you look at the injury report for this week, there's 5 guys who didn't practice. And by the way, Rayshon Jenkins got put on IR, so we're one less safety in the backfield for the defense. And guess who's on the injury report and didn't practice today? Stone Forsythe. So if he can't go on Sunday, and I don't know, this is early, it's only Wednesday, I think Peters is our only option. I don't think we have any other right tackles unless there's some guy in the practice squad we don't know about. So that being said, we're going to need to help out that right side. We got to have some guys chipping, put a tight end, double tight end personnel on the right side to help them out. It's going to limit our offensive playbook for sure. And the problem is, I think Ryan Grubb is dying so much to want to run his UW offensive playbook when he had the best line in the entire NCAA. Now he's basically running the same playbook with the worst line in the NFL. It's not going to work because those routes all need time for the routes to go downfield. You can't do it. Geno's getting less than 2.5 seconds to throw the football, and he's going to end up on his back, and he's going to be injured in no time if we keep running the same offense. So I think you're right. We got to help out with our tight ends, and he's got to speed up the tempo of this. We're going to have to shorten up the passing game. More quick slants, more curl routes, stuff that's within the 10-yard range because they don't have time. We have had so many plays where we've had a wide open receiver breaking down the field for an open touchdown, and the guy's like, "I'm open," and Geno's like, "I'm dead. I'm on my back. There's nothing I can do about it." And I've seen at least 4 or 5 plays over the entire season where we had easy touchdowns, and he just couldn't make the throw because there was a guy in his face or a guy pulling out his arm who's flushed out of the pocket. So we can't grow a new offensive line, so we're stuck with who we got, or something worse. And so they're gonna have to alter the game plan. And right tackle's gonna need help, and we gotta speed things up because Geno will not survive this season if they keep running the same plays, thinking they could do it with this offensive line.
It's crazy because with the Jason Peters, I mean, he's only a couple years younger than my pops, right? And so it's like, damn. I mean, he's on the field. It's like. I mean, talk about a lap short. I mean, it's true.
You're making me feel old. I'm older than your dad. Oh my God!
That's never the intention. I mean, but look, to me, when I found out that Seattle was bringing him back, that was my first thought. Like, yo, he's not that much younger than my pops, and the fact that we got to bring him back, I don't know what that means, in regards to the status of Abe Lucas. But Norb, like you mentioned, I mean, there's a chance he comes back in the middle of the year. George Fant. He spent 3 games on IR now, so hopefully he comes back in the next week or so. I mean, they still have time, or they would still need to open his practice window, so it doesn't mean that he's coming back after the 4 games. But I think, look, 12, 13 personnel. I mean, kid, you talked about this on the show. Seattle was still making a lot of things happen, right? Even if he had 2 tight ends on the field. AJ Barner, I think he showed a lot of promise, so far. It's been flashes, right? We haven't seen too much of him as far as, the sort of impact that he's having on the passing game when he's not blocking. But I've seen some flashes, and I definitely wouldn't mind seeing him on the field a little bit more. I mean, if Seattle's only going to use him for like all the short stuff or as a safety valve, then I understand there's a lot of money invested, but maybe take him off the field. I mean, we have 3 guys already at receiver. K9 has shown lots of strides as a receiver, and so I would not be surprised moving forward if Noah Fant starts to see less snaps and we start to see more of Farrell Brown, more of Brady Russell. I think he's also shown lots of promise, more AJ Barner. And one more thought, I just think that coming into the season, I thought we would see more layups, more of the quick passing game, right? We have guys, Seattle has dogs, guys that can't create after the catch. I haven't seen any sort of jet sweeps. I don't see any screens. I don't see a lot of slants. I don't see any of that short stuff that I kind of expected, because one way that you can kind of combat an offensive line that's not performing up to par is by utilizing the quick passing game. If Ryan Grubb indeed doesn't have the sort of trust in his offensive line to open up holes for K9, then why not use the quick passing game? If you're going to drop Geno back 46 times, right? Was that the number, kid, that you and Mike kind of talked about? If he's going to drop back that many times, I mean, I want to see more layups and kind of get him in a rhythm, a little quicker than what we're seeing this year. Any thoughts on that, kid?
I would say the challenge is, how many guys do you think outside of Ken and JSN, when they catch a quick slant, they're going to get jiggy with it? They're going to make a couple of dudes miss. It's probably just DK, and that's where it ends. Now you look at other teams and how many guys they got that can get jiggy. Let's look at the Rams, for example, right? One of the Seahawks rivals. They got about 3 different dudes that they can throw to in the short space, and they can make you miss. Cooper Kupp's one of them, Puka Nacua, and maybe just 2 then. I'm thinking 2. So maybe 2 guys, so it's fair comparison. But you can put them in the slot and or outside. DK, he is really a speed demon when he gets going. He doesn't have the hip movement to salsa dance, I guess you can say. He's not going to go out there and make you miss. He's going to run through you, which is great. But if you're going to do quick passing game, you want someone that can make you miss. And that's kind of what other teams are capable of doing. They have guys that can make you miss. I give you an example. The Houston Texans. You got Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, and even Nico Collins. He got a little, I mean, he's tall as hell, but he can make you miss. He's not just a speed demon that can run full speed and burn you. He can do that, but he's also available to be in the slot for you. So when you think about with the Seahawks, that's where the challenge comes in, because if you're going to do those quick slants, teams are just going to gang tackle DK, and we saw fumbles. That could become even more of an issue because now he's not able to break free. Those linebackers are going to be teeing off of him in that short distance. Same with JSN, although he can make you miss, but Ty Lockett, he's not someone that's going to catch it and make you miss. He's going to catch it and get down. So you're already -1 there. You throw a slant. You know what? That'd be an interesting thing to go do, Steezy. You find me a video of how many slants Tyler Lockett caught, because I guarantee you it ain't many. Tyler's going to be deep down the field. He's going to be on the sidelines, deep middle. That's it. You're not seeing him do a drag or a slant. If he does do a drag, it's to open up someone else, JSN, a DK. That's not his game. We know that. Ty Lockett catches it and gets down. Very smart gentleman. I get that. But I think that's the issue that Ryan Grubb is looking at. It's like, yeah, we could do that. But at the same time, if only the offensive line could hold for 3 seconds. Just not hold, but block for 3 seconds.
1 more second.
Yeah, the deeper patterns that Norb was talking about will be available. The deep crossers. We've seen Geno connect with DK on double moves when the offensive line does an okay job. You saw that against the Patriots. Hey, motion over, Noah. Yep. Blocked it. Yep. Blocked the edge. Cool. Yep. Say go. DK, touchdown. Miscommunication, whatever. It doesn't matter. That play worked because they were able to move guys around. Granted, they ain't gonna have the best pass rush, but that's neither here nor there. They were able to attack effectively. They just need to do that against better teams. In the past 3 weeks, they haven't.
Right. Okay. So I want to bring up a quick example. I think it was DK's second catch. He was, I think it was Fred Warner that was covering him. If you remember in that Thursday night game, I think he ran a quick drag. Right. I don't know if he was lined up in the slot or if he was on the outside. I don't remember, but you guys know what play I'm talking about.
It was right in front of his face. I think it was a miscommunication. They were playing zone, and the next linebacker didn't carry it over. That's fine.
Oh, okay, so that's what happened.
But it doesn't matter. It's an example of a play that worked. Now, to your point, they can run more of that, but my fear is if the defense plays it quote-unquote correctly, it's just going to go for about 5-6 yards, which is better than nothing because right now the Seahawks will take anything. They got to move the football. So I'm not saying you're wrong in your thought process, but my question would be that's not their strength. DK's strength is getting behind the defense, and you've seen it. Every now and then, if a team blitzes and DK has a slant, it's usually a touchdown. You saw that last season against the Cowboys. You blitz wrong, you're going to pay for it. But I don't know if too many teams are blitzing the Seahawks right now because the offensive line is so bad. They're like, we could just send a pressure. We could just send a pressure.
Get there with 4.
We're getting there with 4, and if we want to press you, we'll send 5. So with that being said, we're not too worried about it. The Niners didn't even blitz, if I'm not mistaken, against the Seahawks. They sent 4-man pressure the entire game. Now, granted, they got Bosa, so that's 2-1 right there, but you get my point. Right. Teams aren't really blitzing the Seahawks, so they can afford to have 7 in coverage. And if you're doing the quick stuff, teams are going to be right there to make plays. And the Seahawks don't have enough receivers that can catch and make you miss off the catch. It's really just JSN.
One name you guys haven't mentioned that I wish they would utilize more, and it's our fan favorite Jake Bobo. This dude can block. This dude he's built kind of like he's a receiver, but he's almost like a tight end. The way he plays and the way he's built and the way he can kind of he likes to hit people. I feel like they could tap into him more because that dude, he's a baller. He'll go up and get it, and he can block. He's a great blocker. He springs some plays when he gets the opportunity. He just doesn't really get out there that often, or at least they don't make many efforts to get the ball to him. I know he's not the fast. He's not going to break away for a long touchdown with yards after the catch, but the guy can go up and get it. And I just like what he does, away from the football, blocking and opening up other plays.
Who would you take off the field for that to happen then? Because someone's going to have to come to the bench to get Jake involved. Not that he can't, but who's going to be the sacrificial lamb? Because that's where it comes into. There's only one football. You take Jake out, someone's got to hit the bench for whatever reason. Right. Who would that be?
Yeah, I know. It's tough. I mean, but we're already talking about taking a receiver off so we can get more tight ends in there.
Yes, tight ends. Now, if you want to use Jake as a tight end, that's a whole nother discussion. But for your purposes, as a wide receiver, who would you sub out and say, yeah, we want to try Jake here?
I would probably take out Lockett. It depends on this down and distance situation. Because Lockett you can count on him to get open. And if you need like 5, 6, 7, 8 yards on an out route.
That is why he is not coming out. So now you're only left with DK and JSN. Who are you taking out? None of them. So to be honest, that's just how it is right now. You can't get on the field. That's how it is. Yeah, it is. It is unfortunate. That's a good thing to have, but when the offensive line stinks, you're in this discussion. Right. Well, Chris, you got to take someone off the field. You can't take DK. You can't take Lockett. When it's 3rd and 9, who's it going to? Lockett. Right. Maybe JSN's kind of crept into that. Okay, JSN's taking that over. But DK's, he's trying to get open every time, but DK also dictates coverage. The problem with Jake, he doesn't dictate coverage. So Jake goes out there, hey, you're by yourself, bro. We got Tyler Lockett and JSN. And they actually did try it. Oh my gosh, what game was it? They tried a back shoulder fade to Jake, and it didn't work out. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Where's DK? Is he at the oxygen mask? He's exhausted? I get it, but that should be for DK.
All right.
And that's an example of them trying it to Jake. I know it's 0-for-1 scenario. That's not a great sample size, Chris. That's unfair.
He did get one. I remember he made a catch, and he caught it short of the sticks, and he fought ahead and got the first down on one of the late drives against the 49ers
this is
on Thursday.
Negative one that I'm like, why are you throwing to him? That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Like, why?
In that situation, I would not throw to him when it's 3rd and 9 and you need the guy to get to the sticks.
And that's where
he wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah. So that's the challenging part. Grubb is trying to figure out, which is a great thing to have, but it all goes back to what, guys? The freaking offensive line. You can't.
The hardest part. We're talking about blocking. Quick passing game, but the elephant in the room is in the same issue that we can't stop the run. Is we can't run the football either. And if you can't run the football, you can't have play action. If you don't have play action, well, they're just going to send 4 dogs down there, stack the box. That's the solution is easy. You don't have to get tricky because you can beat us with 4 guys on the line and just stack the box. And
maybe Seahawks fan, go back and watch the Niners game. You count how many times they sent 5 men let alone 6 guys after Geno. Exactly.
Maybe.
The face. Yeah, it's not a lot. They said, hey, y'all 4 go rush. Do your thing. Yep, cool. We got coverage back here. And they, could you even name any of the corners that the Niners had? They had so many backups out there. I thought Steezy was one of them.
Steezy, I think you would have flourished in that 49er system on Thursday night.
That's what I'm saying.
They didn't have Ward. They didn't have Ward. So, yeah, it was a bunch
nobody. They had 3 rookies out there running around, not turning around to make a play on the football, face guarding receivers. And in my head, I'm like, damn, if only the offensive line could 3 seconds of protection, Seahawks should be eating right now because these DBs had no business covering those 3 receivers. I'm just being honest.
We bailed him out. Another team would have picked them apart. I don't know if the Niners would have had as much success. I mean, let's say it was the Rams, or let's say it was, I don't know, the Packers. I feel like they would have picked them apart.
Bruh, we're going to find out. I don't know how their injury front's looking, but they do play the Chiefs. And if they have those rookies running around, they're going to be able to run the football, number 1, a lot better than the Seahawks have. And number 2, I think Patrick might have 300 yards that game. Just saying.
And Juju might look like prime Juju again. So if you're a fantasy football owner, if he's still on the waiver wire, I'm looking at Juju Smith to have a huge game. But look, just to kind of before, because Kid, I know you do have to go. So one more quick question.
You good, man? It's all good. Don't worry about it. You good?
Okay.
Keep it coming.
Man, that's like, all right, bet. Well, again, this was another point. I think Mike had talked about this on the show, and I promise this is the last bit and piece that I'll pull from you guys' show. I just thought you guys made a lot of great points. But Mike was talking about how, it could be as simple as Seattle potentially just needing an identity shift or a mentality adjustment. So, and Norb, I'll start with you. Let's say Seattle doesn't make any more trades. Let's say you're not bringing in any additional help on the outside. Norb, do you think it's really as simple as Seattle really just needing an identity shift or a mentality adjustment? Or do you think there's maybe potentially another factor in play that could help this team get back to winning again?
Well, identity shift, mentality shift. I don't know exactly what that encompasses when you use those words, because it's a little bit of an abstract concept to me. In my shows that I've been doing, talking about the every game, we've been breaking it down, and we watch film and see what's been going on. And there's an old expression, right? You get the Jimmies and the Joes, or the X's and the O's. Right now, we're stuck with the Jimmies and the Joes we got, right? We're not going to get suddenly some great stars to come in here and fix things. So the Jimmies and the Joes are set. So it comes down to the X's and the O's. Mentality and identity shift, I mean, those are those sort of intangibles that I think are important to any team, having the right mentality, having the right discipline. But I think it's really this is where it comes down to the coaching staff, namely Mike McDonald as the defensive guru that he is, and Ryan Grubb, first-year offensive coordinator. These guys are being put to the test right now, right? It's easy when you're 3-0. You're like, hey, this coaching stuff's easy, man. We're killing it. But when you get hit with this type of losing streak where nothing is going your way, where you can't run the football, you can't stop the run, everything you're trying to do on offense is failing because the backbone of your offense, the offensive line, is failing you almost every play on both running and passing. You've got to come up with something. You've got to come up with some way to have an X's and O's plan that will have your Jimmies and Joes succeed. And we've seen other teams who are just riddled with injuries find a way to get wins. Kansas City, they're undefeated, and they're hurting in a lot of positions. San Francisco was hurting in a lot of positions, yet they whooped us no problem. Granted, ours are pretty heavily stacked in some very key positions that is hurting us big time. But I just think it's got to come down to they've got to come up with a better offensive game plan. And we already talked about it a little bit about changing the scheme, changing the positional lineup. They can't just keep doing what they're doing because they're just going to continue to see what we've seen for the last 3 weeks. So they're going to have to do some major adjustment. Offense, I feel like there's more opportunities there because you are in control of what you're doing formationally. But on defense, you're kind of like, you're reacting to what they put on the field, and the guys just gotta. I think it's a discipline thing. I feel like because we have talent on the defense, but I feel like you mentioned it, Chris, that we got linebackers in the wrong gaps, defenders in the secondary and linebackers taking bad angles on guys, or they should have had, like I think of the Giants game, the 49ers game, both. We had plays where early on we could have stopped their drives at 3rd and long, 3rd and 17 on the Giants, the first possession. We could have stopped them. Quarterback run, it was a screen pass. Linebacker, I think it was linebacker, takes a bad angle and misses the tackle. Same thing happened when it was 3rd down and Brock Purdy scrambles, bad angle, he gets the first down. Granted, the first drive against the Giants resulted in a touchdown for us, but they were on the field for like 9 minutes of the drive and they wore the defense out. If they could have gotten off the field, that might have changed the entire complexion of the start of that game. Instead, we see more of the same. And so, some of it is just discipline. And maybe that's where the mindset or the mentality adjustment is. I think it's more about discipline. It's like, I think they're capable, but they've got to just do their job and do it better. And one play early on could change an entire flow of the game. And they haven't been doing that early on. We find ourselves in a hole for the last 3 games, just having to come back. And it's not working when you're under that pressure. And that's where Geno has to throw the ball 50, 60 times. So we've got to get ahead of it. And the defense got to help themselves out before they get worn out for the rest of the game.
And, Kate, before you go, my bad, Norb, I set you up for failure. I meant to ask Chris the question first. I don't know why.
You're good, man. You're good.
I just wanted to give you a chance, but Kid, I mean, are you able to elaborate on this just a little bit, or?
Nah, he hit it on the head. He nailed that down, man. Mentality, I think, is a big thing. Just because I remember Mike saying this on the show. He said a couple of times, "I'm not the best when it comes to blocking and breaking down how to do this and that." But Mike, as he said on the show, it's kind of either you do or you don't when it comes to blocking. When it comes to a lot of the things that are going wrong with the Seahawks, it starts up here. If your mindset's not in it, well, you can damn sure bet when you get on that field, there's going to be mental lapses, mistakes. And that's not all the players in every single play, but as Norb mentioned, guys being in the same gap cannot happen. There needs to be communication prior to the snap. Like, yo, that's you. I'm here. No matter what happens, let's attack this and get to the ball carrier. Your D-line has to do their job. It's 11 guys on the field, and they're all need to be on the same page. And when they are not, you're seeing the mental errors. You're seeing the mistakes. You're seeing the poor angles. So I would say simply that it's mentally they got to understand what their job is and do it to the best of their ability. I'll say this for an example. Stone, I think, is doing the best he can. But there's a reason he is a 3rd-string left tackle, right? He hasn't gotten to a level where he is 2nd-string or a starter. He could get there. There's still time in the offseason for him to get better, stronger, whatever it is that he needs to do. Well, we know what it is, but the things that he needs to do to get better, that's still something he can do. Will he do it? I don't know, but it's a mentality thing. And right now, he's going out there giving probably his best shot. He's working his butt off. He's just been going up against dogs the last 3 weeks. The Seahawks had a very soft landing to start the season. They played against Bo Nix. Can't throw but 10 yards. Maybe less than that. Next game, the Patriots. What? Come on. The 3rd game, no Tua. I could play quarterback. That's how bad Skylar Thompson was. And then you get to real football, and it's kind of like a shock and awe. Oh, my God. Yo, is that Aiden Hutchinson? Okay, he's a problem. But to give Stone Forsythe some credit, when they played last season, Stone's name lived up to the hype. He was definitely Stone Forsythe. Now, maybe Aiden was whatever excuse you can come up with, but it didn't matter. Seahawks were able to win that game. Stone did a pretty damn good job against that guy, against Aiden Hutchinson. This year, not so much. And we see that. Aiden Hutchinson been whooping ass throughout the season. Unfortunately, broke his tibia, so he's out. But prior to that point, he was leading the league in pressures and sacks, if I'm not mistaken. So I wasn't surprised when he was whooping up on Stone every play. I get it. But it's kind of, as Mike has also mentioned, the no-name guys. If I got to look on the roster, number 72, who the hey, you know who 72 is, dog? He just whooped up on, he just destroyed Stone. Who is he? Oh, yeah, undrafted rookie, barely made the team. That's what you don't want to see. Your 3rd string, 2nd string should be able to handle those guys that are undrafted, no names. No disrespect to those dudes because they're in the NFL. But there's a pecking order.
Yeah.
You don't see Fred Warner getting beat by 3rd string receivers down the field. No. He's making a play on the ball. Now, I know I named an all-pro, but you get my point. And that's kind of been the situation for the Seahawks. Stone's giving his best, And we saw what it looked like through the first 3 weeks. Oh, this offensive line is having its issues, but they figure out in the second half, yeah, when they play against better football teams, how's it look? And boy, has it been nasty. So I would say mentality. These guys' mentals. What did Marshawn Lynch say? You got to have your chicken and your mentals right. The Seahawks chicken and mentals ain't. The chicken's right, but the mentals ain't.
Yeah. Oh, that chicken's right.
The money's coming in, but the mentality needs to change. And if they can get everybody on the same accord defensively, offensively, I think we'll see a better looking team, because I think they're capable. Maybe they don't have the dog in them, and then the film will say, yeah, he's just not good enough. And that happens. That happens sometimes. Stone Forsythe right now, the past 3 weeks, he's just not good enough, but they ain't got no other options. They can call me, but I'm going to just get blown off the football and be in the injury tent for the remainder of the game, going to the hospital with lacerated lungs and broken ribs, fractured arm.
We don't want that.
I don't want that, but that's the reality that they're facing right now. They don't have nobody else. Stone's going to have to go out there and give it his best. But for example, if I'm going up against DK Metcalf as a DB, and I'm the only option, what am I supposed to do? Hey, coach, I can't do it. I got to go out there and try. I got to do my best. That's where they're at right now.
That's why I think it's funny when people just say, hey, well, you know what? Next man up. Yeah, but that's why they don't give $100 million contracts to just anybody. There's a reason there's a starter, second string, third string, because the next man up just isn't as good as the first man up. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, we need them to step up. But like you said, Stone Forsythe, I'm sure, is doing the best he can. I don't fault him not trying. He's just not good enough. He's getting pushed back. He's not strong enough. Technique's not as good. He's no Walter Jones. Walter Jones was what he was because he was the best to ever do it, arguably. But Forsythe is not. It's just not good enough. And I don't blame him for it. It's just not that good.
He's just been overmatched. I mean, we talked about it earlier. He leads the league with 35 pressures allowed. The next closest is at 16. And so it's more than half than the next player. And it's ridiculous. But I mean, like you guys were saying, he's overmatched. And so what really is there? But
the thing is, so the offensive coordinator, the line coach, they know this, right? They're not dumb. They could see it every week. So they got to go, okay, this is a weakness. We have to deal with that. Whether they got to chip it with a running back or put two tight ends on that side, they've got to know it's happening. So if you just keep leaving him on an island out there, he's going to fail every time. So if the coaches don't adjust to it, I blame them for not dealing with what they know is already happening. Because Forsythe he's not calling the plays. He's just doing his job best he can. They got to give him help, something.
To be fair, they have tried to give him help, but even the help don't help.
I know. I saw he got chipped and he still got through.
He's supposed to chip, bro. Sometimes I see like a quick shove. I'm like, bro, that's a half a second, and the quarterback is already down. We need you to keep your behind engaged with that defensive end. Screw the pass that you're supposed to catch. Just stay on Bosa. Make Bosa have to beat both of y'all. Then I'll say, well, that's just Bosa. I haven't had to say that. I just said, God, that's a chip. You just put your hand there and then run a little route, and then you're looking like, damn.
I could have done that chip. Basically, not even feel it. Like, was that a bug on my shoulder? What happened?
Exactly. You can go in there and touch him. Nah, Noah. Nah, AJ. Nah, Brady. Nah, whoever's in the game. I need you to stay a little longer. And if Grubb's like, nah, get out and be available, all right, then that's fine. But you see the results. Now, the Falcons, their D-line is not that good. It's Grady Jarrett, and I don't know anybody else. So they should have an opportunity to run the ball a little better. The run defense for Atlanta stinks. Yeah. The pass defense is a lot better, but one thing the Seahawks want to do is what? Run the football. So this Sunday, I'm curious to see how many touches Ken gets, because I thought they just handed the ball to Ken no matter what against the Niners. They ran it multiple times, and I'm like, it's not working, guys. It's not going to work. I wanted them to stop. It was just bad.
15 touches for like 32
yards. Disgusting.
32 yards. Two yards a carry.
Just run the ball to run the ball. That's what they did. Hey, we're just going to run the ball. I know all the fans and everyone's like, we got to get better at running the football.
You happy now? Are you happy we gave them touches? All right, get off our backs now.
Pretty much. That's what it looked like. They're like, here, we're going to show you guys that it ain't working no matter what we do. But to your point, Norv, use those tight ends. Figure out a different way other than trying just to run it, and it not being effective. Because I was watching that game like, all right, y'all just beating the dead. This is not working. Y'all seeing what I'm seeing? This ain't working. You can do the half. Okay, that halfback draw. We need more of that. But now,
the draw, and they did run the screen a couple of times. Halfback screen, something that Seattle has not done very well for years.
Yes, and they're now.
And it did work when they did it. It was just
the one
so far behind.
Try to stay away from Fred Warner. That was kind of my assessment. Like, if you're gonna run a screen, just make sure you're far away from him as best you can. And it worked later in the second half. They had a screen.
Yeah, the second time. Yeah, the first time he kind of ate it up. The second time it was like, okay, that was better. Blocked it better. 3
fat men in the middle of the field running straight. That's cool. That seems to work out fine. So if they can do more of that.
Right, because that's the thing, right? A good halfback screen is the antidote to a really aggressive pass rush, right? Those guys are coming up the field so hard. Use that against them, and then hope your guys can block downfield. A little easier to have your tackle leading the way against a linebacker than it is going one-on-one against Nick Bosa.
Yep,
like that. Right. Those odds better.
So, fellas, we've talked a lot about what we feel like is ailing the Seahawks. Before we get into just a brief preview, we're not going to spend too much time because we've spent a lot of time talking about what's been ailing this football team. Just something I want to bring up real quick. You guys both talked about mentality, right? And I thought that those are great points because, and we're going to rewind just a couple weeks ago when the Seahawks were upset by the Giants. I thought there was an interesting quote from after the game from Leonard Williams. He talked about how they overlooked, and this isn't verbatim, but essentially he was talking about how the Seahawks and the defense in particular overlooked the Giants. And when I saw that, I'm just like, yo, this team isn't anywhere near good enough to overlook anybody, right? And so I think that also kind of goes back to your guys' point about mentality. Like, if this team is overlooking opponents, it's definitely a mentality thing, right? More so than an identity crisis or having to, adjust anything else. And so, yeah, definitely, I think when it comes to mentality, I'm with you guys there. I mean, that was, I don't know, that was bad. But I just kind of wanted to bring that up because I agree with you guys. I think mentality is going to be huge for this team moving forward. You guys talked about Atlanta, so let's dig and let's just get right into that. Just a couple of fun facts. There are 10 individual NFL players with more sacks than Atlanta's 5 on the season, while Derek Hall alone has the same amount as the Falcons defense. He leads the Seattle Seahawks with 5 sacks. The Seahawks are 3-0 versus the AFC so far this season, but 0-3 versus the NFC, whereas the Falcons are 4-0 against the NFC, but 0-2 against the AFC. And so it's kind of, a little bit of a switcheroo there. As far as past matchups, Seattle is 2-3 versus Atlanta in its last 5 head-to-head, with the last victory just over 4 years ago, 38-25. If I remember correctly, that might have been Jamal Adams' debut with the Seahawks.
He was all over the place.
All over the place, making plays, getting after the quarterback, stopping a run, end up constantly in the backfield. He was disruptive as it gets.
I got to interrupt you because I know where you're going to set this up. But you mentioned Jamal Adams, so I got to say it now, right? Everybody knows, right? The Titans just released Jamal Adams upon his request. He's healthy for the first time, I think, ever in his last 3 years. And we just put our strong safety, Rayshon Jenkins, on IR, so he's out for 4 games. I'm just saying, is that coincidence or is that something? I don't know. So, I think there'd be a lot of people. He's more polarizing than Russell Wilson at this point. So I don't know. So desperate times.
Are you implying that Seattle shouldn't kick the tires now that Rayshon Jenkins is on IR?
I'm not saying they shouldn't or should not. I feel like at this point they had to promote Ty Okada from the practice squad at starting strong safety. Now, I don't know that much about Ty Okada. I watched a few snaps during the preseason, but I didn't think he'd ever see the field, and here he is starting now because that's how badly banged up we are. I'm just saying, Jamal Adams, well, he was mostly injured for us, so we never really got to see the real Jamal Adams. The guy has strengths. He may not be a very good coverage guy, but the guy can tackle, and I think when used correctly, he's a very effective player. Should Seattle do it? I don't know. That would be something for the coaching staff to evaluate. But I'm just saying, we talk about you're not going to find guys just to suddenly materialize and just pop onto your team. He's one that is just now suddenly available. But I just found that out, so I'm just kind of like digesting that. It's an option. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? Is that fool's gold? Is that like is it going to be the dumbest move that Seattle actually ever did that, or would you be open to it at this stage of where the defense is now?
So the one thing is health with Jamal, and you mentioned that. when healthy, if he's playing like he did Atlanta, like he never really got back to that once he got hurt, which is unfortunate because what we saw in Atlanta was exactly what Seattle wanted. They didn't need him to pass coverage. They just wanted him in the run fits. And
sacks.
And sacks. And he did that very well. Now, when they said, hey, we want to expand your game, you want to cover guys, it's like, bro, he's a strong safety in the box. That's not his game. You don't ever say, hey, bro, we need to cover George Kittle. All pro at his position. But you know what? You're a run defender. So we need to play some coverage now. That's never his bag. Oh, well, Cam Chancellor did it. Cam Chancellor got beat by Gronk a couple times, okay? Let's not act like these former elite strong safeties in the league didn't get beat.
Easily.
Don't know how many times he got beat, but you get my point. Asking Jamal to do more than what he's capable of is a detriment. That shouldn't be his task. Now, would you want in certain scenarios for him to play better? Yes, of course. On certain scenarios, you have to be better in taking on a running back at least. That's what we like at most. Can you at least hang with the running back? And on a couple of times, he got beat by the running backs. And that sucks, but you got to move on from that. And to the Seahawks' credit, they tried to move on from it, but just injuries kept piling on. You know, how we left Seattle with going at a reporter. It's just it left a really bad image for Jamal. I don't know if they'd be willing to bring him in, but at this point, I don't see why not. He is money when it comes to run defense. I can go back and look at the film and say, yep, there's Jamal Adams in the backfield. Yep, there's Jamal Adams in the backfield. Oh, there's a screen. Oh, there's Jamal Adams fighting through two fat men to make the tackle for loss. Those are things the Seahawks don't have at the moment. Not saying that the guys are incapable of doing it, but a lot of the long runs that you see, sure, Jamal Adams on that Tennessee Titans run a few years back when Derrick Henry breaks free. Freaking Derrick Henry, I'll give him a pass. He did probably take the best angle, but I'll probably make a business decision too and be like, you know what? You got it, bud. You got it. Cool. Outside of that, Jamal's pretty damn good at run fits. Now, third down, you can get him off the field. You don't have to keep him out there. There are ways to, hey, we need him on first and second down because he is a run-stuffing guy. He's going to get in there and make plays, and that's what his game was. As you mentioned, the Atlanta Falcon game, 2020, he would have like 9 tackles and like 3 for loss and was everywhere. They couldn't run the football. That's what you need him for.
That's what we need right now. And the best thing is, like, it kind of sucked with him on the contract we got him for, how much we gave up and how much we paid. But you could get him now for, I'm sure, dirt cheap because he's just a free dude walking around out there. No one's, he's got his stock value is pretty low right now. So they can get him for a really cheap deal.
And one last thing is this a new regime. Mike McDonald don't really know much about him other than the perception. People have said things. Oh, he's this, and that. He's seen the film. He knows when he's healthy. We definitely do we kick the tires on him, John? So now if they do kick the tires, maybe the run defense improves. Maybe it doesn't. But I see a guy that, if healthy, you could definitely bring him in for workout, see what's happening. Hey man, how you feeling? And if they pass on him, that's cool too. I'm curious to see where he ends up because the Titans used him here and there, and the few plays I did see. He looked fine. He was in the backfield. He was tackling. I mean, I'll go look at his coverage because I know that's one of his weaknesses, but I'm not going to sit up here and penalize a guy for something he was never, albeit good at. He wasn't. I've never thought, damn, Jamal can really cover. Yeah. That's not his bag. His bag is, oh, you want to run the football? Well, you're going to have to go through me. I'm beating up your tight end. I'm going to smash your running back. I'm going to dodge your 2 fat guys, and I'm going to show up against your fullback. That's his type of game. So if they did kick the tires on him, I'm not mad at it.
And that's our biggest weakness right now. We started the show off saying, what's our biggest weakness? Can't stop the run.
Can't stop the run, offensive line. Oh, you said the trenches. That's right. There we go. Trenches. Fair enough.
On top of that, I think his energy is contagious, right? It's infectious. And I think right now this team is kind of lacking like that voice on defense. I know Spoon is, that vocal guy. He's a dog, but I mean, you could use another one of those, right? And I just think he can kind of provide.
You never have enough dogs, man. I know white folks got like 10 dogs. You think they're thinking, you know what? Hey, Janet, I think we can let one of the dogs go. We don't need that, man. No, bring it in. We want more. We want more. Don't nobody say we got the more you've talked, Chris, I want Jamal Adams. I want them to try it out. We got nothing to lose. A few bucks here and there, maybe, but it's not going to hurt him that much. And it's kind of like the Steelers picking up Russell Wilson, right? Yeah, let's get him. If he plays, he plays. If he starts, he doesn't. If he does, no big deal. We're not paying for him anyway. So
what have we got to lose? We're desperate times right now. We need solutions.
You need some dogs. Imagine having 2 dogs.
One last point. Seattle did actually kick the tires. If you guys remember, during the offseason, they asked if he could, switch positions. And so Mike Gonzalo and this new regime, I'm not saying they're looking over how, that messy exit from Seattle. They're not looking past that, but the fact that they were willing to give him a look, during the offseason, they asked about, him potentially switching positions. He politely declined. Maybe they go back and revisit those discussions. I don't know. Norb, like you mentioned, there is a need. Kid, like you talked about, he does kind of fill a void, and so we'll see what happens there. But look, we are about to wrap this up. Before we do wrap it up, I know I've been saying that. Just one more point here. So Seahawks have lost 3 in a row, while the Falcons have won 3 in a row. The Falcons have scored 30+ in 2 of their last 3 games. So I got to ask you guys, Norb, I'll start with you. What's going to give? Is it Atlanta's domination of the NFC so far, or is it Seattle's futility against the NFC?
All right. Well, I've already made my score prediction earlier this week, and I'm sticking by it as thin of a line that I'm hanging on to of hope that the Seahawks can turn this thing around. Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum the problems on the Seahawks, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, but we have talent in other areas. We have one of the best wide receiving core out there. We got good running backs. I think we've just got to find a better map to utilize them in all the different ways that we've talked about. I think that, again, with mentality, discipline, if the defense can just play to their potential. I feel like maybe it's because when you start losing and you start trying to play outside of your position to do too much, you actually take yourself out. I feel like there's just a lot of that going on because of the fact that we've been on this losing streak. So if they can put it together and just come up with a better plan to give Geno, maximize his ability with the offensive line that we have, shore up where it's weakest, and just speed up the tempo a little bit, shorten the passing game, find more creative ways to work the run. Don't just run into a brick wall, but get creative with it. Maybe some jet sweeps in there. Mix it up. Just get creative. The offensive coordinator's job is to figure out ways to make it succeed when it seems like other things aren't working. And yeah, if we can just shore up on the defensive side, tackle when you got to tackle. You don't have to be great to just make the tackle when you got a one-on-one. Take better angles, all those things. Just do your job. I feel like this is a trap game for the Falcons. This is what I'm really hoping, because I think they're coming off pretty high. Everybody saw us get beat by the 49ers. They probably were watching going, oh, Seattle sucks this year. We got this. So maybe we could pull the Giants on them, because we played and thought the Giants were going to be an easy out. And they surprised us. Well, maybe we can do the same thing with the Falcons, because right now they feel like they got everything. They can run the ball, they can throw the football for 500 yards if they have to. But maybe we just do one little thing here and there that turns the tide. We need a little luck. We got to get some turnovers here, because we haven't been able to do that. We got to get to the quarterback some way, somehow, and just shake up things, because if it just goes back and forth, we're not going to win the game. We're going to need a little bit of luck, and we have to kind of make some of our own luck too. But I think if we do that, it's a lot to ask for, but I feel like it's within the realm of possibilities. We got to hit the 30s. We got to score in the 30s. Geno's going to probably have to throw the ball more than 40 times, and no matter what, because we're not going to be able to be that successful in the run game. And we're going to have to hold them to under 30. So with that formula, I feel like the Seahawks, only way they're going to win, we got to do it late with a field goal, 30-27. Seahawks by it. The hair of my chinny chin chin.
We have very similar score predictions, but I'll touch on mine last. Chris, talk to me.
I think the Atlanta Falcons are one of the worst run defenses in the league. I didn't pull up the stats on it, but I think they're like 27th. So if anything, I think this is the game where Ken gets about 100 yards, which then opens up that passing game. And the Atlanta Falcons passing defense is far better than their run defense. So I think the Seahawks find a way to get it done. I will pick the Seahawks. If they throw 40 passes, I expect them to lose. I'm going to be honest with you. If they throw 40 times, Geno's arm might just fall off on a pass. I think that, my goodness, my man is throwing so many passes. He needs a break. Hopefully this week he can get a break. I could be wrong, but I will pick the Seahawks to beat the Falcons. I will say 27-23.
27-23. And real quick to your point, Chris, Atlanta's run defense ranks 25th in the NFL as far as most rushing yards allowed. They're allowing 142.7 rushing yards per game.
I should have looked at my stat, because it's more defining. I forget all the intangibles into it, but I want to say they're 27th. While that does check out, so yeah, they're not going to destroy the run as the Niners did. They should
where the Seahawks rush defense stand right now? Are we worse than the Falcons?
26. So just right
So we're
below.
like right there. We're right there with them.
We allow 144.7.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
And so, I mean, look, but the Falcons can't stop the run. They can't get after the quarterback.
right. They don't sack much.
Yeah, they don't sack much. And so it's like, yeah, there's opportunities here for Seattle. We'll see what happens. But, hey, look, Norb has the Seahawks coming out on top. Chris has the Seahawks coming out on top. I'm going to go more in depth. I'll give you guys the floor here, though, before we do wrap up the show, or at least wrap up the portion of you guys on the show. I'm not going to spend too much time by myself, but this is my score prediction right here. I think Seattle comes out on top 31-28.
Okay.
Man, we've gone way over the time limit that I kind of gave you guys before the show. And so,
No problem, man.
yeah, I apologize, but I appreciate you guys so much for taking the time out of your guys' busy schedules to talk some Seahawks football with me. It's been a long time since I've had you guys on. Norb, I'll start with you, though. I do want to give you the floor. Just anything you kind of want to announce and tell the audience before you bounce on out of here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with you, Steezy, and Chris. Great to be on the show with you together as well. I love listening to you and Greg on 93.3 KJR FM. But for me, I do Seahawks content as well, game reactions, both in studio if it's an away game, or I'm in Lumen Field as a season ticket holder, so you can watch my live reactions from inside the stadium. I do music video predictions, so this prediction will appear as a music video, which I've been doing for like the last 9 years. So you'll see that later this week before the game. And do breakdowns with film with other YouTube guys who do stuff as guests on my show. So just tune in. I'm on social media and on YouTube at Norbcam. And you can find me there pretty easily. So, I appreciate you having me on, and hope to see you guys watching some of my videos in the future. Appreciate it.
Come on, Norb. Thank you, brother. And last but certainly not least, we got Christopher Kidd here. Man, talk to me.
Well, Steezy, thank you again for having me on your program. I appreciate all the love and support you give week in and week out. Norb, pleasure meeting you as well. Definitely going to be subscribing to your content because you know ball. That's what it checks out. You know ball.
Appreciate you, man.
I am sold. So definitely be checking out your content as well. You guys can follow Seahawks Man to Man on Instagram, TikTok, and you can follow me on Twitter, CKIDD206. I apologize now if you do follow me. It's NBA season next week. So you're going to get cross stuff of NBA talk because I love me some LeBron James and NBA. And I will do my best to not flood your timeline with it. But other than that, you can stick around and catch up on all Seahawks man-to-man related Seahawks topics as we just dropped our latest episode with Josh Kendall of The Athletic, previewing what the Falcons got going on. So if you're curious as to what the Falcons bring, hint, hint, Drake London, he spends about 40% of the time as a wide receiver in the slot. Drake London's also 6'5" and 210. So Spoon and Drake. Well, that should be a fun one. Get your popcorn ready. Steezy, appreciate you having me on, man.
Hey, it's all love, you guys. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day. And, hey, peace out, y'all.
Later.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, baby. All right, y'all. Before I do wrap this up, though, I kind of want to go a little more in depth on my score prediction. Actually, no, hold on. Before I do that, though, one last time, a final reminder, be sure to subscribe to Norbcam on YouTube, and don't forget to follow him on Instagram, TikTok, and X as well at Norbcam. You guys know who Norbcam is, so I don't really need to, go too much in depth on him. But yeah, Norb, as you guys know, he's been such a huge inspiration, and he's one of the biggest reasons why I'm in the space to begin with. And so it's always love. It's always such a great time, having him on the show. So be sure to show him some love. If you aren't already subscribed for whatever reason, let's change that right here, right now at Norbcam on YouTube and all social media platforms. I also had KJR FM's Christopher Kidd on the show. You can catch him Monday through Fridays on the Gregg Bell Show with Christopher Kidd from 10 a.m. to noon on 93.3 KJR FM. If you want to get some more Christopher Kidd, then as you guys can see here in the ticker, be sure to follow him on social media, Twitter, Instagram at CKid206, or you can tap in on his weekly podcast. Weekly is it daily? One of the two with The Athletic's Mike Dugar, right? Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. I don't know how often They drop shows. But again, if you want some more Christopher Kidd, at Seahawks Man to Man Podcast on all social media platforms. I still got Norb here in the building. Norb, here, let me just add him real quick.
No, I'm still here, man.
Oh, you're still here? Okay. Well, if you want to stick around for just like 5 minutes, we can
that's
kind
cool.
of react to my score predictions. I saw him.
Yeah, I want to hear.
So I was like, I don't want to just leave him hanging. So I'm gonna bring him back on for just another couple of minutes because
okay, I was just listening around to hear what your prediction was, so or how it went, how you got to that prediction. So
how I got
I'm here if you need me.
All right. Well, thank you, Norb. Well, I'd like you to react just so you're not just there, right? But for me, look, like I said earlier, I already put my score prediction up on the board, 31-28. Here's the bottom line. The Seahawks are the more desperate team. They've had lots of rest, relatively speaking, since it will have been 10 days since the last time they played come this Sunday. I expect a high-scoring affair. But, and Norb, this is to your point from earlier, I do think that the Falcons will come back down to earth in this one. They've scored 30-plus in 2 of their last 3 games. They're on a 4-game winning streak. And right now, everybody's kind of riding that Falcons bandwagon. And look, Norby put it perfectly. A trap game for the Falcons? Heck, yes, I absolutely think so. Look, when you can't stop the run, when you can't get after the quarterback, when everyone's on your bandwagon and everyone thinks you're one of the best teams, not just in the NFC, but the entire NFL, I mean, chances are you're also due for a letdown, especially when you have so many new pieces coming together. Look, I know they're at home. I know they're hot, but Kirk Cousins has struggled in the past, right? Specifically in prime time. I'm not saying that he's going to struggle, particularly in this game, but I still don't think he has a full-on grasp of that scheme and what they got going on in Atlanta. And so, although it's a high-scoring game, I do think that Seattle will come out on top. I'd hate, for Seattle to be as one-dimensional as they have been, right? We've seen that this year all season long. And so if we can kind of get K9 more incorporated, again, Atlanta's run defense is allowing an average of 142.7 in that ground attack. And so if we can get K9 going, even sprinkling some Zach Charbonnet, I think that there'll be a lot of good things for the Seattle Seahawks. If you guys missed it earlier in the week, DK Metcalf mentioned in his press conference that Mike McDonald and the players had a meeting. And coming out of that meeting, there were a lot of positives. Guys weren't pointing the finger. They weren't blaming one another, but they did feel like there were a lot of positives that came out of that meeting. And so who knows, maybe that was, all that they needed to kind of fix some things. But at the same time, I mean, when you're playing 3 games in 11 days, that's difficult for any team. That's just not something that's very typical of a lot of teams. And so, let's say that Seattle is past that stretch. Seattle's had a lot of time to rest. Seattle's had a meeting. It's going to come down to the simple things, right? And so, for me, I have an X factor. I think it comes down to Ryan Grubb and how he's going to call this game. I mean, you see the weaknesses. We've talked about the weaknesses that Atlanta Falcons defense does have. They have some talent there, but again, they can't stop the run or get after the quarterback. And so, Norb, you talked about it earlier as well. I mean, Seattle has the pieces in place, right? Like, as far as personnel, that's not really going to change significantly. Yeah, you bring in a Jamal Adams. Yeah, you bring in a Jamal Peters, hypothetically, right, with the Jamal Adams. That's not really going to change the trajectory of this team significantly. And so I think a lot of it's going to come down to Ryan Grubb and how he's going to use these guys, in that chess piece, or use these chess pieces that he has at his disposal. Because I think he's had some games where he's called, games well, but he's also had some games this year where it's like, what is he doing, right? Like, does he deserve this much control? And so I think he's my X factor there. Norb, do you have an X factor for anybody on the Seahawks, offense or defense?
Well, I'm kind of in sync with you on that. When I did my prediction, I kind of said it's on the coaches, and namely, obviously the defensive side, but on the offense, because I did say the same thing, that's the one area of the field where we control what's about to happen, right? On defense, you have to react to what do they come out with a I formation run defense, or they spread them out. The defense has to play to whatever the offense comes out as. Well, if you're the offensive coordinator, you're setting the tone. You're determining, okay, are we going to come out with a spread look? Are we going to put double tight ends in? You at least control what the pieces are going to do. Then you just hope they can execute that. So when we know there's weaknesses there, glaring weaknesses, well, you got to take that in consideration. You can't just keep ignoring and go, well, let's just run that play that worked so well against when I was at UW. When you got a tackle who can't block for more than 2 seconds. So he's got to address the weaknesses and come out with a game plan that is maybe not what he wanted to do at the beginning of the year, but what he has to do now, because clearly he has got shortcomings that he didn't have to deal with in the past. And he's got to figure out a way to get his best player, which as a quarterback, he's got a very good quarterback, but he's got to be able to give him the maximum potential to be able to not be put in harm's way and get the ball out to his playmakers. Going to have to shorten that passing game because he's not going to have time to, unless we get the run game going. Now, if that happens, then maybe we will have more time. But until we can establish that we can run the game, we run the football, he's got to account for the pressure that's going to be coming and not put Geno in that position because we got great receivers. Got to get the ball in their hands. We got a great running back. Got to get him in the right plays that will maximize success. And we just know where the problems are. And he's just got to help the team out by protecting and mitigating the shortcomings of the team. And that's on him. So, yeah, I'm with you. Ryan Grubb, probably the most important coach out there. Besides the head coach, he's got the biggest job of trying to get this offense going against a team that can be had. So,
right.
Yeah.
Because he has so much autonomy on offense, I mean, there are a lot on his shoulders. And so that's, one of the reasons why I have him as my X factor. Real quickly, Norb, just speaking of Geno, I didn't get to bring this up earlier because I was trying to rush the show. You talked about Geno. Well, here's a fun fact. Geno Smith leads the NFL in dropbacks this season. He's averaging 46 a game, is on pace to throw for over 5,000 yards this season if he keeps this pace up, which obviously we hope is not the case.
Don't do it.
Right. And so here's one more for you, though. If that wasn't enough, since 2000, there have only been two quarterbacks to average more than Geno's 46 dropbacks per game in a season. Matthew Stafford with 48 in 2012 and Andrew Luck with 47 back in 2015. However, he only played 7 games. And so dating back to, since 2000, there's only been one quarterback to average more than Geno Smith's 46 over the course of a season. Matthew Stafford with 48. And I think that year he threw for over 5,000 yards when he had Calvin Johnson in Detroit. And so I just thought this was interesting. Again, these stats are courtesy of Christopher Kidd and Mike Dugar of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. This is one of the reasons why I had it up here. But any reactions or any takeaways from these stats?
Well, it's crazy because this is not the way the Seahawks are designed to go. That's not really. I think Ryan Grubb likes this. I think he would say, "Hey, that sounds good." That's what he did with Michael Penix Jr. and the Huskies. He was throwing the ball all up and down the field. But what's scary here is when I look at Andrew Luck doing that in only 7 games. Well, where is he now? Yeah. Andrew Luck is out of football because he got so banged up. And that's the thing. I said this earlier. You drop back Geno this many times per game, he is not going to survive. 2024. He's going to end up eventually concussed, separated shoulder. He's going to be no longer your starting quarterback if they keep this rate up. And so, but a lot of the problem is that we're playing from behind, so they have to throw their way back in. And it starts, if we're not able to run the football, this is what happens. You have to throw your way back into the game. And it's not a good formula. It just isn't. It's not the way the Seahawks like to play it. They're not really designed to play it that way. They could, if they had an offensive line that could protect for just an average amount. Geno would be probably whatever the yardage you had up there. He'd be at least 400 or 500 yards on top of what he's already thrown, but he hasn't had the time to do it. That's what's amazing is Geno's actually leaving touchdowns and yards off the table because our offensive line's been so bad, and yet he's still racking them up. It just goes to show how good Geno's been playing. He's been doing this with a really bad offensive line. So it's amazing, A, that he hasn't already gone down to an injury, and B, that he hasn't, had worse performances, more sacks, more interceptions. He's actually been pretty smart with the football and threading the needle amazingly. And even DK, you mentioned about DK kind of in his presser, he admitted, and we broke this down before he admitted to that DK was open. He was running the right route, and then he decided to turn upfield at the wrong time, and Geno thought he was going to stay flat on his route. He threw it to where it was flat. DK went deep, and they got intercepted, unfortunately, because I think if Geno knew he was going to do that, he would have put it up, and DK might have gone for a touchdown. It was just a bad miscommunication at that spot, because I think DK thought Geno was going to scramble because the pocket had collapsed and he stepped up. So I think he was thinking he was going to scramble mode. So he went to scramble mode, but Geno was still throwing the original route. And unfortunately, the worst scenario happened. But otherwise, I think that could have gone for big if those guys were locked in. So it's just unfortunate. We've just had some bad luck plays like that. So yeah, man, I feel this game against Atlanta's, it's a total trap game. And, their last win was against the freaking Panthers. Panthers are terrible. Yeah, they beat them by 2 scores, but it's like us whooping on the, the Dolphins, right? You feel good about it, but not a very good team at that time. So, yeah, they might be artificially high on themselves, easily overlooking Seattle, thinking we're like a wounded dog ready to be put down. But you know what they say about a wounded dog, a cornered animal. That's the most dangerous kind of animal you don't want to run into. So, yeah, this might just be the right time. It would be a shocking statement if Seattle could turn this, surprise everybody and pull an upset here. It would be huge for us because, man, 4-game losing streak with the Bills coming to town, that's not a good recipe for the rest of the season. We need this win bad.
I mean, and Norb, yeah, like you said, Bills are coming to town. The LA Rams are coming to town. They'll likely have both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And I mean,
just our luck.
The struggles have been well documented, right, against the LA Rams. And so imagine they're coming, to full strength, coming to Seattle with their, full group of guys. This is right after the Bills game, they're gonna have Amari Cooper. They just acquired wide receiver.
No, it's like, oh God, the timing could be worse than when we're facing these teams when they're just going to be getting even better than they were to start off with.
Right. And yes, okay, this helps a Week 10 bye, right? It always helps to have a late season bye. But after that, this team is about to have Christian McCaffrey back. And so it's like this schedule is going to get tougher. Like we've talked about how, Seattle, started off with a relatively easy schedule, right? But then, like I mentioned, I mean, the schedule's just only going to get tougher. And so if Seattle does not win this game against the Falcons, you've lost 4 in a row. And then Bills, Rams, bye, and then Niners. What if Seattle goes 0-3 in that stretch? And so Seattle would have lost 7 in a row by the time we get to Week 12.
There's no easy game on the schedule. The Giants technically were the last easy team if you were to look on paper, right? Because, we faced the Rams twice. The Cardinals, they're not great. They're in last place. Well, not second, they're third place, but they're a lot better, and they got weapons now. And they beat the 49ers the other week. So, I mean, they're still pretty good. But then we got to face the Jets. Maybe they're not as good as we thought they would have been at the beginning of the season. But then we got to play Green Bay, undefeated Minnesota, at Chicago in December, which means frigid cold. And they're playing really good right now. And then, it's brutal, man. My dad, after we watched the loss against the Niners, my dad, I said, "What do you think, Dad?" He goes, "I think we're going to go 3-14." I was like, "Dad, come on. What are you talking about?" I was like, you know what? I looked, I was like, you know what? That could happen. It really could. It could happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility unless, obviously, we get a lot of our guys back and we start really turning things around injury-wise, especially on the offensive line. But, man, it's like if we keep playing like we're playing, we could easily go 3-14, which is unfathomable considering how we started. But
I don't even believe this. That.
I don't know. I believe it. I don't either. But it's like he said that, and I was like, "What are you talking about? That you're crazy." Then I started looking at the schedule. It's like,
there's a little bit of truth to it.
It's like not out of the realm of possibility. Believe me, last thing I want. But all the more reason why this game is kind of a must get because, granted, Falcons aren't easy and they got a pretty good record, but I think they're as vulnerable as any team we're going to face the rest of the year.
It's definitely winnable. Norb, on that note, I do want to ask you one last question. This is a little off topic, but let's say Geno Smith, for whatever reason, manages to eclipse 5,000 passing yards, right? Do you think that he remains in Seattle after this year? Because, I mean, there were already talks that his camp had approached the front office about a contract extension, right? And so I'm not saying, he's putting up these numbers because he's trying to be the highest paid quarterback, in the NFL. But let's say these numbers continue to pile up. He continues to accumulate these numbers. He throws for over 5,000. Let's say Seattle misses the playoffs, though. Is he in Seattle beyond this year?
So he gets the numbers, but not the wins.
Yes.
Does he get the contract?
Mm-hmm. I know he wants to get paid. He has one last payday in the NFL. And
he does. This is his last hurrah. This is it. Probably at his age. Okay, well, I got to put my money where my mouth is because I've been defending Geno ad nauseum for the last several months and really years, ever since, I was a doubter of Geno Smith in 2022 when he got, anointed the starting job after Russell left. I really didn't have faith in him, and he kind of made a believer out of me. Yeah, he had a little bit of a tougher second year after that, and this year, yeah, the wins, we're a 500 team, but he's putting up numbers, and I'm arguing Geno is not the problem. He is the least of our problems, but other people will disagree. If Geno throws and hits that record number of yards, but we don't make the playoffs, I will say still, and that's just assuming I got to project the reason why we lose. It'd be one thing if Geno throws, 20 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. That's a different reason for missing the playoffs. And let's say Geno still throws a pretty good ratio of touchdowns to interceptions, and we lose because we can't run the football, and because he's constantly getting sacked, and our defense gives up 150 yards plus rushing yards a game. Then, if that's the case, and Geno still is performing at a top tier level, not just yards, but you got to look at completion percentage, yards attempted per play, all those things. I still believe that at the end of the year, I'm going to be saying we didn't make the playoffs, and it's not Geno's fault, and he is a good quarterback. And I do believe he should be given the chance to be the quarterback moving forward, and that they should work out a contract deal with Geno Smith. Unless he proves me wrong that he is not the quarterback, then I believe he should be, because we've seen it. You could draft, quarterbacks, and there's no guarantee they're going to be the next, greatest thing. We've seen plenty of quarterbacks. Look at the Panthers with Bryce Young. I mean, that team's a disaster, and it's they put all their marbles in and drafting him. And where's he now? On the bench. So it's no guarantee that the next guy who was great in college is going to be your best quarterback and savior for your team. Geno Smith is a good quarterback. He just needs protection, and if you give him that and just a little bit more time, he can lead your team, I think, to wherever you want to go. So, yes, I believe that he will, at the end of the year, there will be a contract offer for him. And they will also bring, I don't know how they'll do it, but I feel like you got to bring Geno and you got to bring DK back. And they're both going to get paid. And, yeah, it's going to hurt the salary cap, but I believe you got to keep both those guys.
Wow. Well, hey, 12s, Team Steezy family, you guys heard it here first. From NorbCam himself, Geno Smith is staying in Seattle.
That's a long way down the line. Granted, we're only week 7. Things could change in the next 10 weeks, but that's my feeling right now.
Right. And look, I don't know if you subscribe to this notion. For me, I'm never really married to my statements, right? Everything's fluid. And so I'm going to assume it's kind of the same in regards to that take. But yeah, as of right now, NorbCam does believe that Geno Smith is staying. For me, I'm not going to go in depth. I'm going to say no. Honestly, I think he's going to demand too much money. He's going to point to the numbers, and yeah, I mean, he's deserving, but at the same time, I mean, to give him $50+ million a year, to give DK about $30+ million a year. You want to build this team from the inside out, and I just don't know if Mike McDonald wants to do that. Again, so many things can change. What if Geno is willing to offer a hometown discount, right? Seattle took care of him all those years. What if he's willing to offer a hometown discount? What if instead of $50 million, he's cool with $40 million? If he's cool with $40 million, I'll take that. And then DK, what if he's also willing to take a discount? Maybe instead of 30, he'll take 28, 27. I think DK stays no matter what, though. But as far as Geno, if he leads the league in passing yards, I know he's going to ask for the moon. And so unless he's willing to give Seattle a hometown discount, I just don't see him staying in Seattle. Not because he's not good enough, but, I mean, it's the state of the market. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at things. And that's
I look back at his last contract, right? What's his current contract that he signed with the Seahawks? It was not
3 years.
It wasn't the top. Yeah, I mean, it was not he wasn't top tier, making top tier money, right? I mean, that contract you'd probably say is like what, top, maybe the second tier of quarterback contracts, but definitely not in the top. He's definitely not close to the highest paid quarterback. But those guys are making what, 40? Top quarterbacks making 40 mil.
50+ now, Norm.
50 now. Yeah, 50. It's going to be next year. It's probably going to be 55, and with the top one making probably close to 60. Right? Brock Purdy is going to be the highest paid quarterback next year. I'm assuming things go the way that they're going to go. Right? How is San Francisco not going to pay this guy? But Geno's not going to be getting that kind of money.
But if he leads the league in passing, though, because Tua led the league in passing last year. That was really his only oh my gosh, like this is a Pro Bowl / All-Pro type of year. Led the league in passing. Now he's going to pay $52.5 million.
Yeah, I know. What a mess that is. But Tua's also, how old is Tua?
He's 25.
He's 25, right? Geno's 35. He's got an age thing that goes against him. And I granted Aaron Rodgers is kind of like one of the few exceptions to the aging quarterback who's still getting paid a lot of money. What's he making? Aaron Rodgers, is he in the 50 range?
I think he's in the 40s. He's
40s?
Yeah.
So, and Geno's just not, he's not on that level like Aaron Rodgers. Remember for a while, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson? What you got? Oh, I'm going to up that one. What you're making that much? Oh, Geno's not in that category. He's not making that kind of money, which is, I wouldn't give him that kind of money. But I think like he did on the last contract, I was like, okay, that's not bad. That's not too taxing, but I think it's fair enough for what he does. So I feel like if that's sort of the way it goes, and I guess I can't believe that only passing yards would like that number would be like, heck, 5,000. You got to pay me 5,000. I think they'd look at everything, right? They got to look at everything from, how did the team perform with you? What was the completion percentage? There's so much more than just yardage and touchdown interceptions. There's so much to the entire job besides the passing yardage. I would like to think that the team doesn't just look at only passing yards and go, well, you hit that mark, I guess we got to pay you. There's so much more to it. And his age is such a factor. So I guess I'm hoping that he will be willing to do a pretty good deal and not be demanding the top dollar, because at his age and, unless he takes us to the playoffs and does some damage, that could change things, right? But yeah, if we don't make the playoffs especially, I feel like he'd lose some leverage there. So
no doubt about it.
We'll see. We'll have to follow this up come January, like February of next year, and see where everything ends. And that's when they'll start having these talks about this stuff. It'll be interesting to see how off or on we are about our predictions.
Right. Yeah, like I said, way too early, but I just thought it'd be a interesting banter just because, if he keeps this up, you're right in that, teams shouldn't just look at passing yardage and say, oh, yeah, he's going to get this much based off of that. I just think that, again, it's Geno Smith's last hurrah at a big contract, and because he already gave the Seahawks somewhat of a discount last time around, if he's going to lead the league in passing and just put up huge volume as far as, the yardage and whatnot, maybe he's not going to demand 50, but I just... Well,
it's also what are any other teams willing to pay? Let's say he's willing to walk, and he's like, what? That's your best offer? No, I'm out of here. What other team's going to pay him more? That's the big question. Will another team be willing to pay him 50+ mil better than what the Seahawks might offer him? I don't know. I don't know how high his stock is to the rest of the league, but I'm sure people are watching Aaron Rodgers right now and looking at his situation going, he was supposed to come in and be like the savior, right? The one missing piece the Jets haven't had all this time was just a quarterback. Well, but he missed it last year because of the injury, but he's there now. And how are they doing?
Well, no more excuses now because you've given them Tay Adams and Garrett Wilson, so no more excuses.
Right. And they fired their head coach, which I'm sure Aaron Rodgers claims he had nothing to do with it. He just happened to be talking to the manager. So, hey, how's it going, man? Hey, all good. No, we didn't talk about the head coach. No, that didn't come up. And all of a sudden he's fired. We see the writing on the wall, man. I don't care what he says. But so he's kind of dictating the situation over there. And right now it's like he's running out of reasons to blame somebody else that they haven't been winning. But, again, it's just there's no guarantee, man. But yeah, it's a long season. I hope we'll be talking about something different. But yeah, if they do go 4-13, well, at least we'll have a really good draft pick next year.
Yeah, with the highest John Schneider's pick was 5th overall when we took Spoon. So if that happens, the only silver lining is that John Schneider will again have the highest he's ever picked as far as draft selection in the first round. So that's something to kind of look forward to. Although I hope
something to look at if we don't win this on Sunday and things start getting real ugly real fast before the end of October. Well, we'll go, let's see. Well, here's the good news. And next thing you know, we'd be like, who's on the who's coming out of college offensive line, man? Oh, I got it. Right tackle.
Where all the right tackles at, where all the D tackles at.
Well, it's not just that, though. Look at the whole offensive line. We got our left guards on a 1-year deal. Bradford's on our right guard. He's doing okay, I guess, better than Forsythe. He's still going to be there. But Connor Williams, that's a 1-year deal. We've got guys. We're going to have to replace those guys or re-up them. But right now, are they worth re-upping? Because they're all like just 1-year rentals. Same with our linebackers, right? These guys are all 1-year rentals. So we don't have like that foundational feeling like, okay, we've got our line of the future. We've got one left tackle for the future, and if Abe Lucas can show he can come back and be healthy again, well, maybe we have 2. Everybody else is kind of like It all needs help. It's not good. But yeah, to your point about we pay DK, we pay Geno. Well, then how much more do we have left? We're back in that same problem again, right? We got no more resources for the offensive line, which clearly is our biggest issue. So round and round we go in the circle. But man, tough.
But things
Tough
can't
spot
change
right
in a
now.
hurry, though. So let's hope that the Seahawks bounce back this Sunday. And I mean, look, everything's gonna be all bright and sunny in Seattle again. So, there's no in between. It's that extreme or that extreme. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Hey, always going to be hoping for the best, looking as optimistic as possible. Yeah, there are going to be times I'm going to think, we're probably going to lose this game, but I feel like they can have this one at least. This one definitely is got a lot of reasons to be optimistic about a win, and show some signs of hope that they can turn things around.
No doubt about that. Well, Norb, you know what they say. Time flies when you're having fun. I'm going to just give you the floor one more time. It's been some time, so if there's anything else you kind of want to announce or let the fans know, now's the time. Talk to me.
Yeah, I kind of said it earlier, but again, if you want to follow my Seahawks content, do everything from game reactions inside the stadium, music videos as I predict what's going to happen in the next game, and then break down, the state of the Seahawks week to week. So just follow me at NorbCam on social media platforms and on YouTube. Would love it for you to subscribe and follow me there. And again, Steezy, thank you so much, man. It's been fun reuniting with you on this on your platform and doing this. I'll do this again. I'll have to have you on my show as well sometime coming up here, man. We need to do more collaborations.
Give me a holler, Norb. I mean, for me, just real quick, I kind of stepped away from YouTube for about a year, right? I had a couple of different, jobs in sports that I was kind of, trying to focus on. And so I took some time away from YouTube, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, right? And I would love to collaborate more. I need to do more live streams. I need to kind of get back into dropping long form content. And, you were so instrumental in my journey to kind of, start things off. And so I think it only makes sense, the moment that I kind of, get back into it, that you're right here again, right by my side. So
I appreciate.
Yeah, I'd love to do this again, or whether it's me hopping on yours, you hopping on here. I mean, there'll be plenty of opportunities. So we'll definitely we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure, man. Looking forward to more collabs in the future. So thanks again for having me on here, though. It was fun.
Yes, sir. Hey, take care, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care, man. Go Hawks.
Peace. Go Hawks, baby. All right. Last but certainly not least, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Steezy Smith TV, and you'll be entered into a drawing to win free Team Steezy merch. Again, shout out to my very special guests, man, my VIGs. Don't forget to subscribe, follow all social media platforms at NorbCam, at CKid206, also the co-host of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. And if you want more Christopher Kidd, you can listen to Christopher Kidd Monday through Fridays on the Gregg Bell Show with Christopher Kidd from 10 a.m. to noon on 93.3 KJR FM. All right, y'all. Well, that about wraps it up. As I like to say, nothing but love. All glory to God, AGTG. Hope you guys have a very, very blessed rest of your day. And we'll talk soon, man. Team Steezy, we out, baby. Again, this video is going to be dedicated to Mr. Todd Nas. While that concludes this video, we have loads of other content. You don't have to stop watching there. Other content on our channel homepage, as well as our social media platforms. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for us. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Nothing but love, and Steezy out.